Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm curious, are there any former or current gang members in the room? I'm kidding, don't. Whoa, you actually raise your hand. Don't answer that question. We're all wearing red. It's a bad day to be crippin', you know, don't incriminate yourself. So it might not be painstakingly obvious, but at some point in my life, I was gang affiliated. When I hear the phrase context, I think of the words history and origin. For me, my gang affiliation is a very integral part of my history. Now that I'm way past that crazy point in my life, I'm able to extrapolate all the positives from the negatives. Now my past experiences actually help me level with the at-risk youth I work with in the community, and also help me form genuine and non-judgmental connections with just about anybody. But it wasn't always that way, right? When you're young, brown, and born into poverty, you learn early on in your life that there might not be much to aspire to. I come from a low-income family. The neighborhood I was raised in was very rough, and all the schools I attended could never afford miracles. I found purpose in the promise of brotherhood. I became an alcoholic before I even hit puberty. I was disrespecting girls a lot of the times, and I even helped split this kid's head open once in my own garage just to prove how loyal I was to my crew. Now, I'm not telling you this to brag or to scare you into leaving all the coffee mugs, because I want all the coffee mugs. I'm telling you this to paint a very real picture of toxic masculinity. Growing up the way I did, I internalized a ton of destructive perspectives and behaviors. Toxic masculinity defines a man's worth by how much power he can abuse, by how unemotional he can remain, and by the extent of his violence. Now, it's important to note that although I'm linking toxic masculinity to my experiences in the gang culture is not the only place toxic masculinity comes from, right? There's media, there's games. Someone who's born into wealth and eventually assumes positions of authority and power can be equally toxic as all of the gangsters in the hood, right? If not more than. But I didn't realize how far gone I really was until one night, me and my crew decided to settle a war we had been having with a rival gang. That night, that gang decided to pull a drive-by on us with a .38. I was standing right next to my OG who caught a bullet to his shoulder. Now, thank goodness he lived. Big dude. I realized, though, had the shooter aimed just a couple inches left, I would have caught the bullet to my chest. Now, I'm not a very big person. I was even smaller when I was a teenager, so I'm pretty sure a .38 would have killed me. It's safe to say that that night, I woke up. I decided to turn my life around. I got real with poetry and rap and made it a point to pursue both as my career. And years later, I'm giving a talk at Creative Mornings Denver, right? Like, hey, I'm doing something right. And I eventually got my bachelor's degree in literature. I went on to get my master's degree in teaching. A lot of the work I do now focuses on deconstructing toxic masculinity and redefining what it means to be a good man, especially to young boys of color in the underserved communities that I love working with. And I'm also an uncle now, right? So my sister gave birth to a beautiful daughter and 2 beautiful boys, which means I have crazy-ass, rambunctious nephews who are pretty much into the same things that I'm into. Hopefully, they don't get into gang violence the way I did. They live in Las Vegas right now. On October 2nd, I woke up to the news that there had been a mass shooting on the Las Vegas Strip. I woke up terrified. I was scared for my family. I didn't know if they were okay. I know what it's like to be shot at. I know what it's like to be on the side of the shooter. And so many emotions were just running through my mind and my body. And to help me get through the initial shock, I decided to write a poem, right? That's what poets do. Eventually, the poem turned out to be an interrogation of my own toxic masculinity. And I'd like to perform that poem for y'all today, if that's cool with y'all. Yeah. So the poem is called Blood at the Strip. I'll let RJ do his thing first.
Sorry.
Do your thing, RJ. But don't break it. We need that for the rest of the speakers.
I just want it so you don't have a big blue background.
This is true.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
I hear Las Vegas shooting, and I think about my sister and her family. They live 15 minutes away from the Strip, so they gotta be safe, right? Ironic, pray for Sin City. No one plays Russian roulette expecting a real bullet. I see a status update about gun control, and I ask, what's a firearm but a gamble? What's a trigger but a slot machine? Politics has always been a casino full of stacked decks. I hear mass shooting and I wonder, when's the last time a woman in America took that kind of life? Is there some link between my patriarchy and terrorism? How responsible is my masculinity for that brand of bloodshed? The first toy I ever got was a Colt 45. Buy a boy a gun, watch him fall in love with the exit wound. Children pretending to shoot each other, grow into a war zone and call it sandbox. Is killing cute when it's make-believe? What do we do when murder becomes playground antics? I hear mass shooting and the media won't call it terrorism. They'll say the lone wolf was peaceful before the hunt. A snapshot of life pre-emotional instability. All this before the victim's next of kin are notified. Interesting how I wrote that stanza before reading a single update and still got it right. What's more dangerous than a child holding a gun? The cop who thinks the child is holding a gun? And what's more dangerous than him? The system that pardons its own terrorists before the trial? I hear Las Vegas shooting and my chest caves. I choke on the miles between us. I wait by my phone like a front door. I pray like God is listening. And finally, after all the worrying, my sister responds. She says, the family is safe. I can breathe without the panic in my windpipe. I can put my heart back into my chest. I recall the video she sent me a while back of her at a shooting range. That woman got better aim than I do. And I realize a gun is a dummy until it has a ventriloquist. I don't blame the bullet for biting flesh. I blame the hand that pointed it. The culture that turns a palm into a hungry mouth, teaches boys teeth and blood are the only ways to eat. And I'm guilty. I'm heavy with the image of killing too. Made to choose between soldier or superhero, but who saves the savior? My sister sends me a photo of her daughter, not much heavier than an assault rifle. A video of her sons who roll and rattle like bullets without the war, and I promise I'ma do better by them. Taking lives will not be a part of our playtime. I'll teach them there is more than metal in our grip, that a target is not defined by blood, that a hammer can build a garden too. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, I'm gonna wrap up my talk real quick by saying, please have these important conversations with your sons and your daughters in your own communities. Go home to wherever you find yourself at. Talk about toxic masculinity. What is violence doing to our young boys? Yeah? And I never have a smooth segue into this, but I have my books for sale. I got a few copies. If you'd like a copy, they're going for $10. Thank you so much.